Hi, my name is Jeff Crum, Senior Director of Product Marketing here at Commvault. And along with my counterpart, Vidya Shankaran, Field CTO, we're going to talk to you today about embracing the power of automation. Specifically, we're going to talk about how you can use some of the automation capabilities that Commvault makes available in order to help you reduce risk, increase efficiency, and lower costs. But first, let's spend a little bit of time talking about where we are today. We all know that data is growing, and the sheer amount of data that needs to be protected and managed is higher than it's ever been before, leading to ever greater costs when it comes to managing and protecting your data. On top of that is the fact that enterprises aren't experiencing data growth in some homogeneous way. If you look back over the years, you can see a number of paradigm shifts that have taken place with respect to enterprise IT. From mainframes to client server to virtualization, cloud, containers, microservices, and SaaS, all leading to an enterprise data estate that has become siloed, fragmented, and inefficient to manage. Finally, in addition to data growth and fragmentation, the importance of data to enterprises today brings about greater risks when the data can be potentially compromised. So how can we address the lack of efficiency, greater risk, and higher costs associated with enterprise data management today? That's where the topic of our presentation today comes in. Throughout the rest of this session, we're going to go into detail on specific use cases of how Commvault can help you make use of automation to increase efficiency, reduce risk, and lower costs. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to Vidya, who's going to start us off by talking about using automation to help increase efficiency.
Thank you, Jeff. Increasing operational efficiency is key to any organization that's trying to do more with less, and making sure that in the bargain, they are not introducing technical debt. That is that much more critical as well. So the most common use cases where our customers see the power of automation is in the seamless integration with the ecosystem technology stack and the automated protection of workloads. Let's dive into it. In the cyber climate that we are in today, the SIEM and SOAR platforms like Splunk, they serve as the eyes and ears of the CISOs and the information security teams. So from a security response and recovery perspective, having a comprehensive view of the IT estate, including your data protection environments, are a key requirement, as data protected copies now serve as the insurance policy for enterprises to recover from, no matter what the crisis, including cyber crisis. Commvault, with its extensive API library, aids the ability to have the automated deployment of infrastructure as a code to integrate and federate alerts and notifications into a SIEM and a SOAR platform. That is one of the two use cases around increasing efficiencies. Now let's look at the second one. Given the fact that we now live in a world where enterprises are always in a race to keep up with the pace of innovation, they are continuously adding newer workloads, and protecting these workloads should not be a challenge in itself. Data protection should be easy, intuitive, that aligns with the pace of innovation and stays in lockstep with the innovation pace. Using automation to simplify data protection for various types of persona and user types is that much more critical, especially with modern-day workloads like the container data protection, with the ability to automate protection of containers that DevOps teams are adding into their environment without having to worry about data gaps is very critical. With the help of label selectors, teams can now assign rules for containers that are closely aligned with their business operational requirements, thereby ensuring minimal scope of human error. Now let us take the same example of container-based data protection using label selectors and replace it in the cloud using tag-based data discovery and protection of cloud instances. This is the power of automation that our customers benefit from, immaterial of the cloud platform that they have. It could be Azure, AWS, GCP, or a plethora of other cloud platforms that we support today. With that, I would like to hand it off to Jeff.
Great, thank you, Vidya. So you just heard about how you can use the power of automation to help increase efficiency. Now we're going to extend that and talk about some use cases that specifically help you reduce risk. First, let's talk about DR orchestration with automated compliance reporting. With DR orchestration, you get a run book to help execute planned or unplanned failovers, as well as failback. This helps reduce the risk of data loss, of downtime, as well as the risk of human error that can happen when engaging in complex manual processes. The way this works is that a DR runbook is created so that the steps needed to perform failover and failback can be run as an automated process. One-click automation is initiated with a failover button that then executes the steps that you see here. For planned failover, for example, you power off the production VM. You then run the production VM incremental backup and then perform replication to ensure DR VM is in sync with the production VM. Then you disable any further replication and power on the DR VM, executing that planned failover. For an unplanned failover, here, since this is unplanned, you don't have the opportunity to run an incremental and sync any changes. So you stop the production VM, disable the replication, and then power on the DR VM. And then finally, with failback, this is basically the reverse of a planned failover. You shut down that DR VM, do an incremental backup of the DR VM and restore those changes to the production VM, and then power on the source VM, enabling sync. And again, all of this is automated and initiated with one click by the user. With automated compliance reporting on top of this, documenting compliance with a readiness event like failovers and failbacks, as well as proving that you can execute on these through documentation of test failovers. You can automatically track whether failovers have been completed, whether actual failovers or potentially periodic test failovers to prove that these can execute correctly for compliance purposes. For example, if you have an SLA that you have to prove that you can execute a test failover every month, you can then capture all of this in a report for compliance reporting, mitigating the risk that you might be out of compliance. Finally, customers aren't limited to the defaults when orchestrating their failovers and failbacks and can extend that functionality with additional custom scripts that can be run after those processes, providing another level of customized automation to further reduce risk of misconfigurations that might result in data loss or downtime or other issues. So that's how we use disaster recovery orchestration and automated compliance reporting to bring the power of automation to you. Another area that I'd like to talk about is automated identification and remediation of sensitive data. This capability, which is available in our Commvault data governance product, helps you discover and remediate potential sensitive data exposure in order to reduce the risk of exposing that kind of information publicly or to potential bad actors, as well as to help ensure compliance with GDPR and other regulations. The discover process makes use of predefined content like social security numbers or phone numbers or other commonly formatted information, and also allows customers to define additional filters of their own so that other specific sensitive data can be identified. The discover process then crawls live and backup data sources to detect this information and can then take on one of a number of remediation actions in order to help mitigate the issue. These remediation actions include redacting the sensitive data in a given document or file before sharing that with someone else, thus preventing the spread of the sensitive data. Or you can move that sensitive data to a part of your environment that is less accessible or more protected to reduce the risk of exposure. And finally, you can just delete the sensitive data outright if it really wasn't supposed to be stored there in the first place. So these are just a couple of the use cases that help you reduce risk using automation capabilities from Commvault. And now I'd like to turn it back over to Vidya, who's going to wrap up our capabilities provided by automation, talking about reducing costs.
So in the final segment, in terms of the advantages of having automation with Commvault, this area of focus is on lowering cost. This is definitely another critical area that customers are focused on. And the most common use cases that we see our customers largely benefiting from is with the SLA-driven compute scale-out capabilities in cloud that is powered by AI and ML. And the second most important use case is lowering the overall DR costs with the cloud-native integration that Commvault provides. This ensures that customers and enterprises do not run into static wastage in terms of cost in cloud. So Cloud has definitely brought with it an interesting paradigm shift, back to your point, Jeff, earlier, that in the way that enterprises are now planning and executing their digital transformation strategies. Given that it is paid by the drip in the cloud, enormous amount of effort and time is being invested in planning for the optimal cloud utilization of their resources, while at the same time leveraging the elasticity that cloud provides. Now, closely aligning with the same architectural philosophy of scaling out, automation gives the ability to add newer workloads, newer Commvault compute nodes, and right-size them depending on the workload growth that the customers are seeing in their environment. This is definitely closely aligned with the SLA, the business SLA that is assigned to these workloads. This intelligent way of automating scale-out of resources for Commvault in cloud that is powered by AI and ML is key and provides a very significant area of cost optimization while at the same time enhancing operational efficiency. And back to the previous point about how it also helps ensure that customers avoid static idle cost. At the same time, they also benefit from the enhanced parallelism and the ease of restartability. Earlier, we saw how you can optimize costs for backups, and extrapolating the same power of automation for restores is now possible with Commvault in cloud. This is where the power of elasticity of cloud platforms meets the power of automation with Commvault. This helps ensure that you are able to achieve faster recoverability with higher levels of readiness. The first step is to get the copy of data in cloud. All of these copies are recovery ready. So there is no hardware or persistent compute service required. And that automatically translates to economic savings for our customers when leveraging Commvault in cloud. The second step is to create temporary set of cloud-native compute resources. Now, these are ephemeral instances, and they help increase the availability and also provide the much-needed parallelism for bursting out hundreds of VMs from the cloud storage within the hour. And if you were to translate that into dollars, it's few hundreds of dollars that's required to help achieve this burst restore capability. Now, those newly restored instances are fully usable. They are business ready after validation testing, and we can now bring these machines, validate them, and repurpose them for dev test use cases. Interestingly, this is what a lot of our customers also leverage for disaster recovery. That means these restored instances now become the destination for failover, at which point in time you can now enable portability back to on-premises or even across cloud platforms. That is the power of interoperability when coupled with the power of automation.
Great, thank you, Vijay. So that wraps up our discussion on mitigating the complexity of enterprise data management with automation. In this session, you saw how we could use automation to increase efficiency, including use cases such as seamless ecosystem integration and automated workload protection, or to reduce risk, including DR orchestration and automated compliance reporting, as well as automated identification and remediation of sensitive data. And finally, you just heard from Vijay talking about how you can lower costs on both the backup and DR dimensions with AI ML-driven auto-scaling of compute and lowering DR costs with cloud-native agility. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.